Our next guest speaker is Dr. Douglas Lowy, who was appointed as the Acting Director of the U.S. National Cancer Institute earlier this year, after having previously served in this role twice before. As Acting Director of the NCI from 2015 to 2017, Dr. Lowy led innovative and ambitious government initiatives, such as the Precision Medicine Initiative and Cancer Moonshot. Dr. Lowy is also the Chief of the Laboratory of Cellular Oncology in NCI's Center for Cancer Research. Dr. Lowy's research includes the biology of papillomaviruses and the regulation of normal and neoplastic cell growth. In partnership with Dr. John Schiller, Dr. Lowy worked to develop, characterize, and conduct clinical testing of the 3 FDA-approved HPV vaccines. For this research with Dr. Schiller, Dr. Lowy received the National Medal of Technology and Innovation from President Obama in 2014 and the 2017 Lasker-DeBakey Clinical Medical Research Award, the most prestigious honor for biomedical research in the United States. Dr. Lowy also received ASCO's 2018 Science of Oncology Award, as well as the 2019 AACI Distinguished Scientist Award. His most recent honor is the 2020 AACR Distinguished Public Service Award in recognition of his outstanding leadership at NCI. Dr. Lowy received his medical degree from NYU and trained in internal medicine at Stanford and dermatology at Yale. He's a member of the National Academy of Sciences as well as the National Academy of Medicine. Please join me today in welcoming Dr. Lowy.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to thank Dr. Vogt for this really kind introduction. And I also want to tell you that it is an honor for me to have been invited to give you this short presentation about some of the activities at the NCI. But before I do that, I first want to congratulate all of the awardees who are going to be receiving awards after I finish my presentation, and especially to congratulate Jed Wolchuk. Aside from the fact that he is an outstanding scientist, highly deserving of giving the Karnofsky Award, it turns out that he and I both trained with Jan Vilcek at NYU. I did it when I was a medical student there, and it was my first research experience. I am bringing it up today to re-emphasize something that Dr. Vogts talked about, which is the importance of mentorship. I would not be here today if it were not for Dr. Vilcek. He had more confidence in my potential than I had, and that really made all the difference in my professional career. I also want to congratulate all of you for having gotten through the past 2 years and for the incredible devotion and commitment that you have had to patients with cancer during this terrible period. Your resilience has really been extraordinary. I now would like to tell you a little bit about the transition, and really to introduce the transition of Ned Sharpless to myself with a press release that was issued by Tom Cole 2 months ago, shortly after Dr. Sharpless announced that he was resigning. Ned was really a terrific leader for the NCI, and I was sorry that he was going to be leaving because he had done such a great job. But I am very pleased to have been asked to be acting director again. And these comments from Congressman Cole really exemplify 2 aspects. For those of you who don't know Congressman Cole, During my first tenure as acting director, he was the chair of the House Appropriations subcommittee that provides resources for the NIH in general and NCI specifically. And he has been a great friend of cancer research for many years. And I also want to highlight that in 2016, I was with Congressman Cole in Oklahoma City because he is a member of the Chickasaw Nation. And the Stevenson Cancer Center, with support from NCI, organized a meeting on cancer precision medicine for American Indians and Alaskan Natives, because as you will see in 3 slides, in case you don't know it, this group of Americans has really not benefited very much from all of the advances that you and others have made in cancer research. So in my 12th day as acting director, I participated in a hearing of the House Appropriations subcommittee, and I just want to assure you that there is really strong bipartisan support for cancer research and the NCI among the members of this group. And these are quotes first from the chair, Rosa DeLauro, who is a Democrat, and second from Chuck Fleischman, who is a Republican. And they really are both complimentary about all of the advances that you have been involved with. Some people are aware that in the budget for 2023, the president's budget, is actually the same as was the request for 2022, as shown in this slide in the orange for 2022 and 2023. But I want to show you, by depicting what has happened over the last 5 years, that Congress has, with its bipartisan support, has actually increased the funding for NCI each of the last 5 years. And so I think that with your help and support, it will happen again in 2023. This slide shows you both good news and bad news about the age-adjusted cancer mortality trends by race and ethnicity over the last 20 years. The good news is all of the trends are downward, both for men and women, but the squiggly lines represent mortality rates for American Indians and Alaskan Natives, and they clearly have not benefited to the same degree as others. The top line shows the decreasing mortality rates in men on the left and black women on the right. Note that the rate of decline has been substantially faster, especially for black males, compared to the rest of the population. This is very good news. But note in addition that the disparity still exists, as I will show you in 2 more slides. This good news hides some other areas where success has not occurred yet. One of the areas of great effect, as Dr. Vokes mentioned, was the area of lung cancer. And this slide from the Lung Cancer Research Foundation tells you about the increasing rate of FDA approvals for lung cancer. Almost all of these approvals have been for non-small cell lung cancer, and that is where the substantial improvements have occurred. A lot of the improvement that you see on the previous slide was for decreased incidence of lung cancer thanks to decreased tobacco consumption. But as my colleagues and I published a couple of years ago in the reference shown on the bottom, advances in lung cancer treatment also are playing a progressively important role in improving the mortality outcomes for patients with lung cancer, as already mentioned by Dr. Vokes. Another area which I think is really very exciting is what is happening with mutant KRAS associated cancers. As shown on the right, the KRAS G12C inhibitor, the first one was approved just this past year. And this is after the discovery of the mutations 40 years ago this year. And for the first 30 years, there simply was not progress in developing inhibitors. But thanks to Kivan Shokat and his colleagues, using a tethering approach for G12C inhibition, this now is a reality. In addition, there is preclinical data for a number of KRAS G12D inhibitors, and these show promise, and you and many of your colleagues are going to be testing these approaches in clinical trials in the near future. The table on the left shows you that while G12C is common in lung cancer, it is uncommon in pancreatic cancer. By contrast, G12D is very common in pancreatic cancer. And I am optimistic that we will be able to make progress in this area, first as single agent treatment, but then ultimately combination treatment. Part of the bad news was reported last month by Megan Clark and her colleagues from NCI about uterine cancer death rates going up. They are highest by far among Black women in the United States. They are 2 times as likely to die of uterine cancer. Most of the mortality increase is attributable to non-endometrioid uterine cancer, which disproportionately affects Black and Hispanic women. The increased rate over the past 7 years was 3.5% per year for Black women and 6.7% for Hispanic women. There is clearly an urgent need for new research in the affected populations. The last topic I want to cover is the Cancer Moonshot. We have all been excited by the aspirational goals, which I will describe for you in the next slide, of the reinvigorated Cancer Moonshot by President Biden and the administration. But it's important to remember that the first Cancer Moonshot is still alive and well and will have funding through FY23. And this just summarizes some of the accomplishments over the first few years of the current Cancer Moonshot. And I called your attention to more than 2,000 publications, 49 clinical trials, and more than 30 patent filings. So what are the goals of the Cancer Moonshot in the next phase? What President Biden articulated at the beginning of February in a White House ceremony where both he and the First Lady spoke, and in addition, the Vice President spoke, and all 3 of them talked about cancer, how it affects everyone, and how we need to do better. So the first goal is to cut the cancer death rate in half within 25 years. The second is to transform the meaning of cancer. And the third is to address cancer-associated inequities. So on the next slide, I am summarizing how the NCI is currently thinking about how we can take these three aspirational goals and try to make them feasible. First, we need to invest in the pipeline of new drugs for cancer prevention, interception, and treatment. Second, we need to greatly expand clinical trials to speed the evaluation of candidate interventions in diverse populations, racial, ethnic, and geographic. And I should also add, seriously consider including patients with comorbidities who currently are excluded from many trials. And you and many others are going to really be key to this aspect. Also, ensure equitable health care delivery of current and new standards of care, the importance of implementation research, and to increase the diversity of cancer research and the cancer care workforce to resemble more completely the communities that we serve. So in my last slide, I want to tell you that we are hoping to jumpstart the next phase of the Cancer Moonshot for funding in FY23. And there are two proposed funding announcements that we are going to be discussing at the joint board meeting of the Board of Scientific Advisors and the National Cancer Advisory Board less than 2 weeks from today. One is the Cancer Moonshot Scholars Diversity Program, whose goal is to try to achieve much more equity and diversity among cancer researchers. And the second is a feasibility trial for clinical evaluation of asymptomatic multi-cancer detection screening, so-called liquid biopsies, which hold great potential promise, but really need rigorous evaluation to demonstrate that this new approach actually can save lives and reduce mortality. So in closing, I want to simply remind you about what happened with KRAS. I was fortunate enough that my laboratory participated in the first identification of a mutant KRAS in cancer 40 years ago this year. I never imagined that it was going to lead to actual cancer treatment. And for the first 30 years, I was right. But through persistence, ingenuity, and technological development and understanding, it has been possible to go in that direction. And I think this is just one of many great opportunities that we have. So in closing, cancer affects many too many people. Many too many people die from this terrible disease. But thanks to your efforts, this is going to change, and we are going to change the face of cancer over the next few years. Thank you very much.